SARC is a nonprofit organization right here in Harford County that serves as a lifeline for victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual violence, and stalking by providing a safe haven, resources, and most importantly, advocacy. It gives them hope. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, SARC is the organization that's going to help you get back on your feet. Join us in the next 30 minutes as we learn all about their efforts right here in Harford County. I'm Christy Breslin, and this is Harford MagaScene. Louisa Chiezo, a good friend of mine, someone very dedicated to this community, and the Chief Executive Officer here at SARC. She's here to tell us about this wonderful organization, this wonderful resource, and how if you are struggling, they're here to help. Hi, Louisa.
Hi, Christy.
Now, Louisa, I know you get this question all the time, so of course we're going to ask it again. What does SARC stand for?
SARC is the Sexual Assault Spouse Abuse Resource Center.
Now, SARC offers so many services. So tell us about the services, and of course, what is your mission?
Well, we are seeking to provide hope and resources to victims of domestic violence, sexual violence, and stalking, primarily in Harford County. And we do that by providing free counseling, legal services. We have a 40-bed safe house. We also have a 24-hour helpline, and we added a chat feature in order to be more current so people can actually chat with us. We also offer community education, so people can invite us in to speak at their church, at their school, because we really think it's important to prevent violence before it happens by talking about healthy relationships and how to intervene if you're a bystander and you see something concerning and you want to help someone.
Louisa, you and I have known each other for a very long time, and you've been the executive director for a very long time. Very passionate about your job. So just tell me a little bit about your legacy.
Well, I've always been passionate about the fact that everyone should be treated fairly and equitably. And even if I didn't work at SARC, I would support SARC's mission because I really believe in what we do here. And you know, one of the things that I'm most proud of when you talk about a legacy project is the board of directors, myself, the community, our employees, our volunteers all have come together, and we've created this beautiful new safe house, the Phelan Safe House. And we just recently opened our doors and welcomed our clients back in. And we are so excited by the improvements that we've been able to make and the fact that we went from 28 beds to 40 beds, so we're able to help a lot more people.
And of course, when people know that I work with you and that I'm very active with SARC, they ask me, what about privacy? That's a big concern.
Yes, absolutely. And that is actually one of the tenets of what we do here is that confidentiality is paramount. Everybody is trained. If you come in and you see someone that you know, maybe a neighbor or even perhaps a relative, that you let people know that you've run into someone you recognize, because we do want to treat your confidentiality so seriously. And every single person that works at SARC, including our volunteers, when they're answering the helpline, doing counseling, going to court, they are all taking that very, very seriously. So what is said here stays here.
And you know, that's so important. And the amazing thing to me is that you offer these services for free. How do you do that?
It is pretty amazing that they're free, and I think it's so important that we are able to do that. One of the things that people don't think of is that there, in addition to physical abuse and emotional abuse, there's also financial abuse. So you may see somebody that you know who's a domestic violence victim, and you think, they should just leave. They've got a great job, they have resources, why are they staying? But financial abuse is a very real thing they may have to deposit every single paycheck into an account that only the abuser has access to. So they may have, make plenty of money from the outside, but they can't get to it. So that means that they can't pay for an apartment, they can't pay for food, clothing for their kids. So it's so critical as a barrier, removing that barrier for people to choose to leave, that these resources are free.
Louisa, somebody that needs the help, what's the first step?
Call our 24-hour helpline. It's, someone will always answer. They're warm, compassionate people, and they won't judge you. They're looking to figure out, along with you, what works best for you, because it may not be safe for someone to leave. And so we want to be able to meet the person who's calling where they are, maybe just give them information. But if they are ready to leave, 2 o'clock in the morning, we will get you to a safe place. And the wonderful thing is that our new shelter has so many great improvements, that there's a playground for people to play on site and feel safe because it's monitored. We are able to provide pet shelters now. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you watch TV and there's a natural disaster, what's the first thing that people are thinking? Like, I can't leave my pets behind.
Right.
So now we're able to actually shelter pets on site so we can keep people and pets together, because you do leave a lot behind when you make a decision to leave. And so having to leave your pets behind too, we're so proud to be able to offer a really nice facility for dogs and cats to be able to stay at the shelter as well. We also now offer a gym on site, which is great because we know it's good for your health to be able to exercise and helps reduce your stress. But a lot of the people we serve are afraid to be seen out in public. And so like even walking or jogging like out and about could be a risk for them. So being able to offer a secure gym is a huge improvement. And now we have a suite-like environment. So there are 10 suites that have a kitchen table, a mini fridge, and ample space for people so that they feel just really comfortable and have the space to heal. So we're really excited to offer this new program.
Louisa, great to see you. 17 years, and we hope we got another 17 out of you. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you for informing the public about SARC.
Oh, absolutely. And what do you do if you think someone's in an abusive relationship? How do you handle that? We'll have all the answers for you coming up. Allison Imhoff is a licensed clinical social worker here at SARC, and she is here to help you. She is here to guide you, and she is here to make sure that you get the resources that you need. Hi, Allison.
Hi.
Now, Allison, tell me exactly what you do here at SARC. I know that you are a very valuable asset.
Sure. So I'm the Director of Counseling and Client Services. When I first came to SARC, I was the Director of the Safe House for 3 years, and then I moved into my current role. I oversee our counselors, abuser intervention program, our client services, and our community educator.
Allison, this cannot be an easy job. It must be very, very tough to see all these people go through this, but you're there to help 24/7, right?
Our team is available 24/7. No matter if they need to call our helpline or if they're responding to one of the hospitals out here, we have staff who will not only answer phone and be a trained supporter, an advocate, they can provide resources, or we can provide services to bring someone into the Safe House 24/7.
Now, I've noticed that people, when they're in an abusive relationship, they're very secretive about it. So how do you find out if they are in that abusive relationship? What do you do?
There's a few different abuses that a lot of abusers use. They can do financial abuse, so they get restricted on being able to work, or they're not allowed to have access to their own money. We always think of physical abuse, so you always think of someone showing up with bruises and marks and stuff like that. A lot of our abusers are really savvy, and they know not to hit anybody in the face, and they only end up hurting people where clothing typically covers. Or they know not to allow their victims out in public until their bruises have gotten to a certain point. They coach their victims on what to say when people ask questions. So there's various different types of abuse that our abusers will do to our victims. Isolation is a huge factor. So isolation from friends, family, a change in behaviors. Typically, we just tell people who are concerned about someone, just ask if they're okay. Ask if something has changed. You'll notice a change in their behaviors.
Allison, you have so many valuable services. How do we take advantage of them?
The first step to do is to call our helpline, which is 410-836-8430. Again, we have staff 24/7 who are extensively trained. They can help you safety plan. They can help you assess what your resources are, get you connected to more resources. If it's bad enough, they will help you figure out how to get to safety, whether it's our safe house or to a friend or a family or out of state or whatever. Our staff will be able to help you no matter what.
Allison, thank you so much. I mean, I can't thank you enough for being that outlet for people that really need someone to talk to and really need someone to help them take the next step. You are that person. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much.
Now, as you've heard, SARC has so many wonderful programs. We're going to learn more about some of them in detail coming up next. It is now my privilege to be joined by volunteer extraordinaire, Hazel Hopkins. Hazel, thank you so much for being with us. You are such a valuable asset here at SARC, and we are just lucky to have someone like you on board.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a privilege to be here to represent SARC as a volunteer.
Well, Hazel, you would say volunteers are just a vital part of the success, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and this is how I think of the work that I do. Whatever I do frees them up to do really important work with the clients or fundraising or whatever. And I like being in the background and not having to have that leadership, but just helping in any little way that I can.
Now, you've talked about some of the things that you like to do, but you have to have your favorites. What are some of your favorite duties?
Well, I really like being at different events because it gives me an opportunity to have an added appreciation for what SARC does, because this is what happens. Every time I'm at an event, a client, a former client, will come up and I'll say to the person who walks up, "Have you ever heard of our organization?" And they'll go, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh, you helped me. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to make it if it hadn't been for you." And the hour or two that I would spend at the table was worth that picture on their face. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's probably my favorite thing to do, just visiting with people.
Now, what would you say are some of the things you're most proud of?
Oh, gosh. Well, I like the idea that they can call me and say, "Hazel, would you like to be interviewed for TV?" And I go, "Yeah, sure. No, why not?"
And we're happy about it too.
I like the fact that they can call me and ask me to help out and that they feel comfortable asking me. I like that part very much.
Why should people volunteer, and why should they volunteer for SARC?
Oh, well. It's funny because I was not aware of anyone in my circle of friends or, community that had been a victim. And yet, once it was presented to me, I realized that as a woman, it was something that I could do for the community. And so if people are looking for a way to help their community, I think this is a great way to go. Yeah.
Hazel, I want to thank you again for everything that you do. And not only do you do it, but you do it with such passion and dedication. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart and everyone here at SARC.
Well, it's been fun to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Now, as you've heard from Hazel today, it's great being a volunteer, it's great giving back, and we'd love to have more people like Hazel on our roster. Maybe one of them can be you. Stay tuned. I'm now joined with my friend Eric Rebert. He is the SARC board president, and he's here to tell us all about the organization, the board, and what they're doing to move things forward. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Christy.
Now, Eric, of course, we're lucky to have somebody like you with SARC, but how did you first get involved?
Well, gee, Christy, it goes back probably about 12, 15 years. A friend of mine asked me to play in a charity golf outing for an organization called SARC, and I had no idea what SARC was or who they were. And I was invited back several years in a row, and every year that I attended, I got a little more information about the organization to get a better understanding of the mission. So I was kind of drawn to it, and over time, I got more and more interested in helping the organization. So my wife Stacy was pretty helpful in getting me connected with Luis and some other folks here, and I signed up for Walk a Mile. Probably, I don't know, about 12 years ago was my first Walk a Mile. This idea of, getting my own high heels and walking a mile around Bel Air was just totally alien to me. I had worked in New York, I worked in DC, I worked in Baltimore, I've traveled the world, but I've never really did anything here in Harford County. So this was a great way to connect with an organization that I thought was really important.
So Eric, I love the Walk a Mile. I love all the events that SARC puts on, but this year, something new. What is it?
This year we have something new. Historically, we've done a fall gala called the Balloon Glow Gala and had tremendous success, but we're changing it up. We're moving to a new venue. We're moving over to Rockfield Manor, and it's called Bubbles, Bourbon, and Bites. So it'll be a really interesting evening. We're hoping to have some good bourbon tasting, some good champagne, and really draw a lot of people in to learn more about SARC and find out about the organization and have a good evening.
Now, Eric, what can we do as a community to help SARC with their mission?
I think the best thing that people can do is introduce their friends and families and neighbors, co-workers to SARC and talk to them about their mission and give them an idea of what we do and maybe participate in some of these events. If we can sell tickets to an event, that's great. But more importantly, if people can contact us to learn about the resources and information and services, everything from legal and residential and counseling that SARC provides, they might be able to help somebody in the community. We're also always looking for people who want to support the organization financially, whether it's attending a fundraising event or just making a contribution. There's a lot of campaigns that the organization does throughout the year, so any support that we can get in any number of ways would be incredibly helpful.
Eric, as president of the board, tell me a little bit more about the role of the board. How large is it?
Our board is a great group of individuals in the community, business owners, people who work within the Harford County area. They're invested in the mission. They've been supportive over the years. We've had long-term board members. We've had short-term board members. Everybody's been fantastic. They bring in resources to help the organization in many different ways, from financial resources to services and products and vendors who can help SARC accomplish our mission on a day-to-day basis. So it's been very rewarding. We have a board right now of about 12, and we're getting ready to add maybe one or two more. It's been really a strong year for board development and board growth, and just looking to make the organization better.
Thank you, Eric. I know you're a very busy man out there. I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate all you do for SARC.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, coming up next, why do people stay in abusive relationships? And if they are, how do we help them? All the details straight ahead. Jamie Sokolis is a client service coordinator here at SARC. Jamie, thanks for being with us. She just got out of a 4-hour meeting, so she has taken some time to sit down with us today. Jamie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, Jamie, what is a client service coordinator? What exactly does that mean?
So the client services coordinator role, I wear a bunch of different hats. So I work with the hospitals, and we respond out to the hospitals to see victims that are seeking medical attention. I work closely with the law enforcement agencies in Harford County, making sure that any victim that has had a police-initiated call, that they're getting connected to services. And then we also do long-term case management to make sure that whether if victims don't necessarily need our Safe House program, but they still need that long-term support and help, that we're there for those types of services as well.
Well, you also have something called the Companion Program. What exactly is that one?
Yeah, so our Companion Program is We are on staff 24/7, 365 days a year. So somebody is always available to respond to either of the hospitals in Harford County. If a victim of sexual assault, domestic violence, or human trafficking are seeking medical attention at either of the hospitals, we can go and provide emotional support to hold their hand if they're going through a sexual assault forensic exam, provide them resources, just kind of be there because it's probably one of their toughest days of their lives, and we don't want them to be alone during that.
Now, you did mention exams. Can somebody still get an exam if they don't want to file a police report?
Yeah, so they have Jane Doe exams that they can go to the hospital, still receive all the medication, all the preventative treatment, just make sure that medically they're taken care of. But they can also still get the forensic piece of the exam. It just doesn't have to necessarily go to the police. So a Jane Doe exam would just be labeled a case number to be given to police if they were to want to open it down the line, but they still have the option to get that DNA and that evidence collected, even if they aren't sure necessarily at that point in time that they want police involved. But whether they have police involved or not, we will still come out, offer our support and services, and just kind of inform them of all the options and rights that they do have.
Tough question. What if you know someone that is being abused, but they don't want help?
That's a very hard thing to, we don't want to see our loved ones going through anything like that. But just letting them know that we're there for them, letting them know that there are options available for when they are ready, because forcing somebody into a decision that they don't want to make is not going to be helpful for anybody. So just making sure that they're aware of all the resources that are available, as well as just being there for them in support, and making sure that they are safe.
And not only for the victim, but you have services to help the entire family. Talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have gone to the hospital as a companion multiple times, and I've sat in the room with the family member, not necessarily the victim that's in getting the exam. So just kind of providing them support and them kind of help in going on this journey, because it's going to be a process that the whole family goes through. So whether it is with police involved or just wondering about medications or having any questions, being able to be there and answer those for them is very helpful, as well as our counseling services. We offer counseling to children, whether they've witnessed domestic violence, primary and secondary victims. So we know that the family can be the victim's only support system, so we want to make sure that that whole family feels supported.
Jamie, thank you so much. We are just so lucky because we've had so many people talk to us today and so many resources, and all the staff here at SARC, like yourself, genuinely wants to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I've met one person that has ever worked for SARC that didn't want to be here all the time just to help somebody.
Well, truer words could not be spoken, because coming up next, we're going to talk to a domestic violence survivor who shares her story. Telling your story is a very brave and very difficult thing to do. And I have a young woman here today that is willing to share her story with us and how she came to SARC. Jessica, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Jessica, first off, let me say you are so brave to tell your story. This is such a hard thing to do. So tell us, what happened?
Okay. So I'll go back to my childhood, the way I grew up. My parents were loving people, but they had an unstable relationship. So I think, unbeknownst to them, there was some internal feelings that maybe I wasn't good enough, or maybe it was my fault, or whatever those things were. And, after doing all of the healing that I've done over the years, I realized that the things as children that we kind of make up in our minds, sometimes it's not always actually factual. It's like what we believe or what we've heard. the wrong way, we can internalize that, and that can create a very low self-esteem. And so I think I had a really low self-esteem, and I really wanted to feel love maybe that was in the wrong place. And so I actually ended up with my ex when I was 16 years old. And, you know, it started off slow. We had a baby when I was a month from turning 17. And it was a little bit after I had her that, you know, the first time he like grabbed my arm and twisted it like the Indian burn kind of thing and pushed me against the dresser. And I was young, and I was also like kind of in shock and like didn't really understand or know what it was. And as the relationship progressed, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse until my last real vivid memory is when I had my second daughter 6.5 years later, and I was putting her into the car seat carrier to go to her very first doctor checkup, and I said something that made him mad, and he put me in a chokehold, and I woke up in her lap. And then I realized, like, this is really not good, and this is just my life. At that point, I felt like maybe I had to accept it and survive. But it was quite interesting because family knew, friends knew, some people said things, some people didn't say anything. But, you know, ultimately, I was just trying to figure it out at that point after all those years of it getting progressively worse and worse.
Well, what led you to SARC? How did you connect with them?
So it had been many, many years of, you know, going back and forth, breaking up, getting back together, because I felt like if I could get back together with him, then I would have more control, because it seemed like I had less control when I would leave. And then when I finally made the decision to leave, I remember I called my dad crying, and, you know, I was just telling him about what happened, and he said, I just can't take another phone call like this. So you either make a decision and you leave for good, or, you know, like, don't call me and tell me about this anymore, because I can't take it. And that's when, you know, my parents were like, whatever you can gather, like, let's just leave. And so that's what we did. And it was probably actually my mom who gave me the resource, told me about SARC, and thought that they could really give me some help, and they did. I walked in the door and I told a complete stranger only a fraction of my story, and she was so willing and ready to help, and just all hands on deck. And right away they were like, do you need shelter? Like, what do you need so that we can set everything into place for you?
So they were instrumental in helping you with your recovery.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
If someone is sitting at home and they're watching your story and they're thinking, maybe I should do it, what would you say to them to encourage them to get the help and the support that they need?
I would say, I know that you're scared, but there's life on the other side, and it's a really good life.
Jessica, thank you. And I know that there's some important people in your life that have really played a very important role in your recovery.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to thank my fiance today for all of his encouragement and support, because I was actually still going through a second court battle with my ex when I met him, and he was super supportive with that. And I want to thank my parents and all of my family, really, for just loving me through and never judging me and letting me do things on my own time, because everybody really does need to figure it out on their own. They don't need to be pushed. They just need to be supported and loved. And lastly, of course, my children. They have always been my light and definitely my North Star, and everything that I've done has been for them, and I'm really super proud of them.
as you've seen here today, SARC is here to help for anyone that is suffering from domestic violence, sexual violence, stalking, harassment. This is the resource that you need to help you get back on your feet. You can call them 24/7 or you can visit their website. They are here to help. I'm Christy Breslin. We'll see you next month on Harford MagaScene.